Autonomous digital enterprises. For those of you who follow this channel, you know this is one of my favorite topics. I thought this was going to be far in the future, where businesses can operate with minimal human intervention. In the last couple of weeks, I was in at least 3 conversations where businesses tried to figure out how to automate parts of the business where workers were not in the office anymore. Remote work disrupted processes. So maybe the future is a lot closer than we think. Last week, I had a chance to participate in a session that was a virtual design thinking session for a large company where they were trying to figure out how much they can push the envelope. They are being disrupted left and right from their large competitors, but also with startups. And part of the disruption, a lot of the disruption has to do with digital transformation. So they were thinking, what if we were thinking ahead and we came up with a model how we can build an autonomous enterprise or as much as possible. So they formed 2 teams, a blue team and a red team. The blue team was the current incremental improvement organization. They were figuring out how they can automate more and more processes in the business, how they can introduce AI in increments in certain areas. And the red team, they were the disruptors. They were sent away with the task of building a brand new business. How can you come up with something that could totally disrupt our own organization, which you know well, and be a new entrant in the industry that would have a fundamentally different operating model and definitely a cost structure? So the 2 teams went away. They worked all day long in different breakouts, and they came back. And at the end of the day, it was a really interesting insight because the blue team thoroughly identified processes they already were thinking about automating or introducing AI into or machine learning. And they identified about 10% incremental automation or autonomy opportunities, as they called it. The red team went crazy. They rebuilt the business processes as much as they could in a day session with the objective of going digital first, asking themselves, why can this process operate autonomously? And autonomy requires a lot of technologies. So they were looking at AI, machine learning, deep learning, RPA, automation, process discovery, process mining, and a variety of other tools. But at the end of the day, what they were saying, we can apply a lot of this in a lot of areas. Frankly, we already do. They looked at their advertising processes and digital marketing processes, and they were actually fairly autonomous already. They had a lot of interactions with their consumers and even sales with their consumers that was fairly autonomous already. So as they look at different parts of the business, they gained confidence that that was already possible. So there was a team 1 with 10% automation, team 2 with up to 60% automation potential, and they started comparing notes. And what came out of it is a compromise that believed that 20% of the business with today's technology can operate autonomously. And that is staggering. To give a sense, the disruptor team's cost base was 40% lower to operate than the current business. And their fulfillment rate, which is satisfying customer orders, was 30% better. So they believed if they could just get some ways that direction, that would completely disrupt their own competitors. And in a business that was very price sensitive, could definitely put them in the first place. So that was their exercise. And one of the side benefits, which I thought was amazing, is they came up with a variety of new roles. So as the disruptor, the red team went away, they said, we're going to need a lot of different capabilities in this business. We're going to need a chief machine learning officer that defines guardrails within which the AI and machine learning algorithms can invent and improve themselves. They came up with a feedback loop. So the system actually improves itself. The process gets self-improved. But there needs to be somebody that supervises that. So there are going to be completely different roles for the humans, as they called it, which is going to be a lot more analytical and experience-based. They also realized that it's really hard for those kinds of positions. You can train people on AI and machine learning algorithms, but how do you train your managers? How do you train your executives to operate in an environment where they're actually going to oversee digital workers? They're going to oversee machine learning processes. So that was a really interesting side benefit. Ultimately, they came up with a roadmap that they're going to work towards for 20% autonomy in this business. And that made sense to them in their environment. What I took away from this exercise is that the future is probably a lot closer than we think. A much higher percentage of processes could be autonomous, self-operating. And I think we're going to see the first fairly autonomous, automated businesses in the next 2 years and not in the next 5. That's my prediction anyway. So I hope we're going to be working towards that as an industry, and the value could be absolutely incredible. And that's one of the reasons I believe once the first disruptors show up and their cost and fulfillment rates are fundamentally different than the incumbents, they'll win. Talk to you soon.